morning, guys. Laura here from Hedgehog Homestead. Let's talk about chickens laying eggs, and winter is coming. So how do we prepare for that? How do we keep our chickens laying through the winter? And what can we do about the abundance that we have now? Let's go through that as I feed the other animals. But I'll give you a quick tip on this. Our extra eggs, what we can do is you can crack the eggs open and put them in a muffin tin and freeze them. And then put them in a baggie. And you can use them as long as you defrost them first for cooking and baking and stuff like that. And they're better for scrambled eggs than anything, but that's a good way to preserve your harvest of those eggs now. So I'm probably gonna do that later, but first I need to get outside and feed the animals, and then we'll discuss while we're in our chicken coop or around our chickens what we need to do to keep these guys eating or giving us production eggs during the summer. Now, a lot of these things I'll have to say I don't do in practice, but I have in the past, so I know that they work. But it's just one of those things that you can, or there's several things that you can do to keep them laying during the winter. Some of the things you can do is with the food itself. To keep your chickens laying during the winter, you want at least 16% protein in their food. I personally add a little more protein with some sunflower meal, which I have here beside me, and it's just milled up sunflowers. You can give them straight sunflowers, but they process the milled better. So that is something that we do for our chickens during the winter. Right over here. And our layer food has 16%. So food is one of the ways, adding worms or mealworms or any of those things that will increase the protein during the winter. So we already talked about giving them at least 16% protein in their food. Now, there's a bunch of other things, though, that you can do for your chickens. And one is making them comfortable. And one of the things that you could do is making sure that their coop is comfortable and dry. That when it's cold, they have a heating element in there when it's really cold. They don't need it for like 30 degrees, but if it's below 30 degrees, you really kind of need a heating element in there to keep them warmer, to keep them laying. Now, a big thing to keep your chickens laying, heat just won't do it, is light. You really need a supplemental light in there. They need light for at least 14 to 16 hours a day. Having clean water to drink. Anything that will stress a chicken out is something that you want to take care of. Chickens don't like having wet feet. That is a big thing for a chicken. If they're in a muddy area, like you've had a lot of rain and a lot of that, put some bedding down on the ground, straw or spent hay or wood chips, something that's going to keep them from having their feet so wet. It'll also keep your chicken eggs cleaner if you have some bedding on the outside of your chicken run. Even pebbles or sand will work to keep them feeling a lot better. When chickens are stressed overall, they have problems laying eggs. So just think of anything that would stress your chickens if they're having a lot of pest pressure, if they're having a lot of like coyotes or anything that foxes, raccoons, protecting them strongly against those things, hawks. If they're scared, they're not going to lay eggs unless it's scared right out of them. So keeping your chickens warm and dry and having them ample space inside. Another thing that can keep your chickens from laying is their own community itself. If they don't feel comfortable in their community, like if you have some chickens that are on the outs with their community, they're getting attacked a lot, that chicken's not going to lay eggs. It's too stressed to lay eggs. So that's another thing. So keeping them warm, dry, with plenty of light, at least 14 to 16 hours a day. Giving them supplements of food, and maybe some extra protein above that 16%, like sunflower meal, fatty acids, flaxseed meal is good, peas in there. Peas are great to keep around for chickens. You can have them frozen when it's really hot and unfrozen for the extra protein. Good morning, Fred. Unfrozen for the extra protein during the winter. Chickens, dry feet, warmth, 16 to 14 hours of light. So if you put a light on the timer in your coop, you can actually buy those online. It's just a great way to do it. And then preserving those eggs, if you don't want to do all those steps, if you want to give your chickens a break, which is really good for your chickens, you can forgo all of that and then just preserve your eggs when they're in abundance. That's what I like to do. I rather buy a couple of cartons, and that's usually all I end up buying. But let's also talk about why chickens stop laying, and that's coming soon. If you look at my chicken coop right now, you're seeing a lot of feathers, and that's because it's molting time pretty soon. Usually fall is a molting time where they lose their feathers. Now chickens are going to stop laying almost altogether during that time. They might lay an egg here and there. It depends on their age. So if your chickens are not laying, why they're not laying their eggs. Right now we're getting an abundance of eggs, so it's just started for us, but they do that every year. It's just something a chicken has to do. They get rid of those old feathers, and then they grow new ones in their place. Now, it can be very hard on a chicken when they're molting. It can be very hard on them, so it takes a lot of energy. So what that chicken needs to recover is a lot of protein. So anytime I get table scraps, when I have chickens that are molting like that are losing their feathers, I go ahead and I add any chicken scraps that have a lot of protein. I make sure I give them to those chickens. They're just getting that extra protein during that time, that extra support that they need during that time, because that is going to help them grow feathers faster. You can actually increase that period from 3 months to a month by feeding them a lot of extra protein, almost 100% extra protein. If you could just give them scrambled eggs, or like if you make a chicken dish, you give them those scraps, and mealworms, anything that will get them to grow those feathers faster. It can make a huge difference in their production of eggs and getting those feathers back so they can get those production of eggs going again. Another thing that will make them stop laying altogether is age. If your chicken is more than 2 years old, the decrease of eggs goes down exponentially every year. So if you're keeping old chickens, they're just not going to lay. You can still use those chickens for other tasks like turning mulch, turning compost, eating worms around and ticks and things around your farmstead, your homestead. They're great, even in their old age, to do all of that stuff. So you might want to free range those chickens a little more often and get them to eat any extra bugs on the property, and that will help them. And just so that you don't have to process them. Here on the homestead, I don't like to feed things that aren't feeding us, so I do process them myself. So that's just one thing that we do, is that we kind of have a principle. If that animal's not taking care of the homestead, which if you're going to free range your chicken and it's taking care of the ticks and you don't have to pay somebody to come out and spray, that's paying for itself, right? So I got to get back to work. I got to go ahead and give these ducks. Now, one thing that ducks lay for at least 7 years, chickens are consistently, and chickens only lay for 2 years consistently. At 5 years is probably their max for laying. Then you might get a random egg here and there, but it's not very often. So just know that if you got old chickens and they're just not laying anymore, that may be an issue. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you guys next time here on Hedgehog's Homestead. God bless.